we go. Just waiting for Instagram to get going, and it looks like we are live. Welcome to the Inside Britball podcast. My name's Andy Taylor, joined by Stuart and Isaac as usual. And as you can see, we are live for the first time ever. And we've been meaning to do it. We've been putting it off, and we just decided that we're going to crack on and get doing with this, aren't we? So welcome. Please send your comments in, join in the discussion. We get lots of them post podcast, so it's really good to get you on board for this week anyway. So we had plenty of action coming up this week. We had a couple of games this weekend, didn't we? So let's get straight into it as usual, to look at the results of week one. And hopefully there you can see our lovely graphic of the results this week. So Isaac, I'll come to you first. We had obviously only the two games, but what were your thoughts on this on these fixtures that happened this weekend?
Well, I think Newcastle came out and, kind of shocked us all. We spoke last week about a disappointing season they had last year, and this one could be a redemption season for them. An entirely new coaching staff that we mentioned last week in both the podcast and the preview, and now they're led by Coach Enrique, and they've got a really, really good coaching team up there now. And they came out and showed that against Leeds, and it goes to show that a changing coach, but a good changing coach, can do the team a world of wonders. Beating a side that finished second in that division last season, it's not very good showing for the Leeds Griffins, really. Only scoring 10 points. It's not the start that they would have wanted, but it's a great start for Newcastle nonetheless.
Yeah, and it's certainly something that you mentioned last week, that the change of coaching will really be something that can likely propel this team, right? And we wondered, I was a little bit skeptical that the one-sided affairs that were happening last year could have been pulled back this week, but actually we saw that can absolutely happen from week to week, from year to year with BUCS, can't it? And a 21-10 win over Leeds is a rather impressive start to the season there, isn't it? Stuart, from a Leeds point of view, we had concerns with obviously the big turnover there in terms of coaching, and it's hard enough, isn't it, with BUCS year to year? And this will be a disappointing start for them, I'm sure, as well.
It will. This is kind of the flip side of the coin to it, isn't it? You do big change. We're saying the same thing about Newcastle as we are about Leeds. It's just how that dust all settles and comes out. And it might just be that, Leeds are taking a little bit of time to gel. I was listening to our friends over at Depth Chart Sports last night, and they had the president of Newcastle on, and he was saying that they've just had a complete mindset change as well. And what helps them is returning the opening kickoff for a touchdown. If anything is going to settle any nerves and get you in a really positive mindset, or in Leeds' favour, think, oh no, what are we in for here? It's opening with a kickoff return for a touchdown. Fair play to him. He also said that as they were running down the touchline with them, they thought, hold on, we've still got about 120 plays here that's going to make a difference. So yeah, this is one game in the season that has stuck out like a sore thumb because it's not what a lot of people thought, let's put it that way. There's still a lot of fixtures, there's a lot of football to be played. Yes, Newcastle are 1-0 and Leeds are 0-1, but there's still 7 games to play. 7, 10. Yeah. I was trying to work it through in my mind, 10 minus 2. So yeah, quick math at this time of night is not working right. There's still a lot of football to play. It's one result. Congratulations, Newcastle. Let's just see if they can back it up. They don't play again now for another few weeks. If I remember flicking through the fixtures yesterday or at the weekend, I think they've even got 2 or maybe even 3 weeks off to sort of celebrate this. But yeah, they're no doubt they'll be straight back at the grindstone and wanting to come off that next result and carry that momentum through.
Yeah, we next see them mid-November, where they travel to NTU. So that's a big gap, isn't it? Which can be a good thing, but because obviously you don't get a big run up to BUCS, do you? As we discussed last week, but could also be a negative in terms of momentum. So let's have a look at the South Bend, because that's a very convincing start to the Prem South, isn't it, Stuart? Where Brunel Burners went and took it to Portsmouth Destroyers 39-8 in the end.
It is. I've mentioned in sort of our content groups that I am looking at creating some sort of sheet to reach out to teams to get some information. And I'm keen to learn more about Portsmouth. Obviously, they've been a staple of the Prem South for the last 4, 5, 6 years, maybe. I remember at my time in Birmingham, we played against them a few times, so that's at least 5, 6 years. So yeah, I'm keen to know what's gone on with them. Not to take anything away from Brunel, they've had a few really, really good seasons to obviously get promoted to the Prem. And as I mentioned last week, the level it is their grass field, and looking at all the photographs and everything in that sort of weather, the grass field is a level. If you know how your field plays, you're going to be able to, be better than your opponent, especially when Portsmouth are used to 4G. So a couple of outstanding players. We've been tagged in a video with a receiver who apparently never drops anything. Literally has hands like Velcro that attaches itself to the football. 85 or 89. Apologies, I can't remember which number it is. I don't know if anyone else has seen the tag in it. But it looks like that the receiving core and the QB have that solid connection to just beat teams deep. So I think when teams are watching scout of Brunel this year, they've also got a really talented running back. So they're going to have to scout dual both run, stop and pass defense as well. So that's going to be interesting to see how they compete going forward as well.
And Isaac, you're obviously doing our previews up on the website. Does this change it? Does any of this change your opinion of all these teams, or you still think it's too early to call?
I do think it's too early to call. We were talking about last week that there's not a long run up into BUCS. It's 4 weeks, 5 weeks max, and then you've got your first game. Especially from Prem North and South teams now. It's for Portsmouth. They were coming off of a high last season. They performed really well. Took SGS close a couple of times, but this is just a huge thing for Brunel. Really, like they've come up. They've carried the momentum on from the final last year, where they were the Tier 1 champions, and they've just come into this new division and just thought, right, we can take a shot here, and they've done it. And I think what was the most telltale sign is that they didn't concede until the last play. The very last play of the game is when they conceded. Now that's going to be huge for them to be carrying on into the rest of the season.
Yeah, no, we've just got off a recording with the London Blitz, haven't we? And they mentioned about a couple of their star players who have headed to some of these Prem teams. Obviously, Brunel Burners being one of them, being in the area. So really exciting to see where they can go. And I suppose, as you say, first week, there's plenty more to go, plenty more to rectify in something that only gets about a 4 or 5 week run up, doesn't it? Especially with new players and so on as well, which we touched upon last week. But should we have a little look to see what we think of this new section that we're going to probably call Poll Assassin or something like that, where we get to break down the new writers' poll. So we have collaborated with Depth Chart Sports and First Down Magazine, and we have contributed to a writers' poll, effectively, haven't we? Which was a fun exercise. It's a working beast. We'll see how it unfolds over the next few weeks. But we came up with, between us all, a pre-season poll, didn't we? Where we had Uwe at 1, Gold at 2, then Saints, Leeds, Beckett, Pride, Burners, and then Loughborough, Wolves, Destroyers, and Griffins, didn't we? At the bottom there. Just out of interest, how did you approach yours? Because I don't want you to give away the way you ranked them, but how did you find it? What did you approach? How did you approach this?
Isaac, do you want to go first, or shall I do it?
Yeah, I just thought, right, if these two teams are going to come up against each other, who's going to win? Really, it's you look at last season, and with BUCS, especially now in the Prem National, there's such a huge change in the 2 years. You look at Leeds Beckett, for example, who's got an entirely new squad from last season, and same with SGS. To be honest, like you just have to think, like, right, if these two teams are going to go head to head, who's going to come out on top just for the first week, and then once the weeks come up, then we can get like a real viewing of see who's who, really.
What about you, Stuart?
I don't think it will surprise you in any way, shape or form, Andy, but I went back to our spreadsheets from last year and I put together all of the Premiership standings, all of the Division 1 standings, and looked at who I think would be the top 10. It won't surprise you to see No, actually, I didn't, if I'm thinking correctly. I think 4 of my top 5 were Prem Nationals, and then it kind of got a bit wishy-washy in the bottom 6. There's murmurings that what we are doing might tweak slightly, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But I was basing it all off entirely results from last season.
It's tricky,
There was a couple of bits where I was like, okay, I know something on that team for this season. I know something on this team for this season. Let's just flick those between 7, 8, let's say, or 5 and 8 or something. Like, I know that there's been a big changeover in Exeter. So I took that into my considerations. I knew how strong Brunel were last year. So I took that into my consideration for my top 10. And yeah, based on this weekend's results, I think the first thing that we talked about on Sunday night or even Monday morning was like, are we doing these this week? Can we change them this week? And then there's been even more conversation around the writers' poll. So keep your eyes peeled for more news on how this is going to develop going on throughout the season, because I think it's fantastic, and full credit for the 3 of us working together on this. And I think it could be really, really good for BUCS in general and for people to get behind, alongside the competition that we're running that we'll come on to towards the end.
I think it's, if anything, it gives us something to talk about, doesn't it? And I know a lot of the comments have been around making this a top 25, a bit like the AP poll, and that's all being listened to. You can guarantee that. And I think for me, looking through this, I kind of felt that there was tiers in this top 10. So there was a tier 1, a tier 2, a tier 3. I felt there was a middle ground. Interestingly, the top 10 quite reflects mine, if I'm honest, but I'm sure we're going to get onto in a second where we think we might have got it wrong, and certainly the comments let us know, didn't they, which ones we got wrong. So what let's get into the poll itself then. Isaac, is there any of this that stood out to you in particular that you're like, wow, okay, that's surprising, or did it all shape out pretty much how you were thinking as you were doing it?
I mean, East Warwick, I'm shocked at how low they are. They were Prem North South finalists last season. To have them at 8 underneath a side that's only just come into division, I think is quite a big shock, really. Loughborough being down at 7, you could argue that they're in the national there could be 5, or 6, but having them at 7 is quite a shock as well. But no, I think that's the only of what we had to go off of. I think Warwick and Loughborough are really the only 2 shocks.
Leeds Beckett being 4th is probably a bit high for me to start off with. I know they've recruited really well. I will say that immediately. But I'm still holding on to last year until proven otherwise. But I thought that was tasty to see them up at 4th. But until you see them on the pitch, it's really a guessing game, isn't it? And obviously some felt that they were much higher, because this is obviously an average as well, isn't it, of all our votes. Stuart, anything for you stand out?
I think that's probably the one where I've been most hypocritical. I think last week I said Leeds still have to prove it to me. Leeds still have to prove it to me on the field after doing all of their recruitment posts, and yet I put them that high, knowing what they've recruited. So some you win, some you lose, but we're not gonna. We've agreed to not share what everybody has said. That goes across all 3 platforms. So you won't find out what I've picked, what Isaac has picked, what Tebs from Depth Chart Sports has picked. You won't find out everybody's 10 or 25 as it comes up. You will just get the writers' poll coming out to you, and you guys can lambast it, you guys can praise it, you guys can tear it apart, create the chaos that Andy loves so much and always speaks about, and engage with it. That's why we've done it, to sort of get people talking around the sport that we love so much.
Yeah, 100%. So how will the 2 results affect this poll, do you predict? Because I'm not asking you for what you think you're going to do, but do you expect to see presumably you're expecting to see an introduction of Newcastle to start, but how much of a bump do you think that they might get during this, considering that they're obviously out of this poll at the moment?
Yeah,
I think that, straight.
Yeah,
go on, Isaac. You're north.
well.
You're north.
Yeah.
You're north. You talk about Newcastle.
Well, I think they come straight into it. They've beaten the number 10 team. They've earned a spot. They've beaten the side that are currently number 10. So yeah, especially Newcastle and Brunel. After their performance on Sunday, they look like they deserve to be number 6, or at least, definitely in the top 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it feels like there might be a shuffling ordinarily because we'll introduce Newcastle, I'm sure, but it'll be interesting to see how much of a bump Brunel get, if they get any at all. Bearing in mind that there's obviously some national teams and some national champs up there in those top 5, isn't there? And then let's see what happens with Leeds and Portsmouth in the end. We might get a bit more detail, but I think this is obviously going to happen after this weekend as well, isn't it? So we'll have a lot more data points to shuffle through as well, which we'll get onto in a second. So yeah, let us know in the comments what you think of it overall. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Do you want it to be bigger? Because at the end of the day, we're doing it for you guys anyway. So please let us know in the comments. So really interesting nonetheless, and I'm looking forward to breaking that down with you week in, week out, because it's going to get really tough as the season goes by, isn't it? When we've got all these matches to go by and all these, because you hear it on the other podcasts that do college. You've got like best losers and good wins and head-to-heads and all this sort of stuff that shuffles the pack. So fortunately, we're not going to do that one.
Best loser. What a horrible term.
Yeah, isn't it dreadful? But no, nonetheless, it'll be really interesting exercise. I think it's just, if anything, for us, it's reflective as well, isn't it? Because you can kind of look back and really get your thoughts down on it all. And fortunately, we can then have something to talk about in the podcast. So, right. That was the easy part. Should we get on to week 2? Because there is plenty.
Speaking of
talking, there's plenty of fixtures going on this weekend. So let's have a look at the Prem to start off with, because we've got plenty going on. And Isaac, obviously, let's see what this looks like. Yeah, maybe not. Playing around with it now.
Anything happens on live TV now, right?
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, Isaac, I'll give you first dibs as always, because you're going to be doing our preview. Plenty of previews for you to be previewing. But out of this lot, what stands out to you and what you're looking forward to most?
It's that UWE Beckett game, really. I think if we can cast our minds back to this time last year when it was UWE against Notts, we were like, first game back, what are UWE going to look like? How are they going to perform? Then Notts went down and pulled the shock out and beat them. I don't expect that from Beckett. However, I think they can give them quite a good fight. You look at the recruits that Beckett have got, not just American recruits they've brought in. Yeah, they've brought in a tight end from Rutgers, I believe, a wide receiver from West Virginia. Like, they've brought in a lot of talent, but they've also got a lot of British talent coming through. You look at Line, for example. Like, they've brought through a ton of great British talent, and I think that's where they're going to really be better from as well. It's not just freshers and stuff like that from Leeds Beckett. It's people who played the game for a while, but they're going against UWE. That's the big but. You look at they've just signed a player from the NFL. Like, that's going to be huge, like, for anyone to go against. But no, I expect it to be a lot closer than last year. I don't think it could get much further away, but definitely it's going to be a better contest this year.
In that game, is it going to be a case of that Beckett have reloaded, but UE have reloaded plus as well? Is it going to be that they're going to put up a better fight, but there might be still a concerning gap? But we just won't know that, will we, for now? But it's still going to be a tough challenge for Leeds to travel to, isn't it? To come up against that sort of talent, and there's plenty of comments around the depth and the breadth of talent that UE are recruiting to, which is great to it's obviously great to see. It's just whether whether it's great to play against is a different matter, right? Stuart, any from you that you want to touch upon here?
Isaac went for the top one. I think I'm going to pick one from north and one from south. So NTU Warwick. That opening game last season was the one that NTU were competitive in. And then I think after Christmas, it was very much all one way for Warwick. So I think it'll be interesting to see which NTU comes out this season. We know that they played in a scrimmage against the UEA Pirates, I think it was, a couple of weekends ago. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that has either helped them or hindered them. Again, I'm planning on reaching out to teams, but whether it comes ahead of these fixtures this weekend to know what's going to go on, I don't know. So the first time we know which NTU turns up might well be after this result next week, and we'll find that out. And then that fixture in the south for me, whether Portsmouth bounce back, whether they've licked their wounds and they're on home crumb, I'll call it, against a Cardiff team that are looking to shake off that tag of basement dwellers, relegation avoiders for the last few seasons because of one win here and one win there. And yeah, that's going to be for me. Can Cardiff finish above Portsmouth this season at the bottom of the Prem South? Although Cardiff won't want that mantle. So that's the one that's going to draw my attention for who's going to be where in the Prem South.
Chances to bounce back for two teams, isn't there? Portsmouth bouncing back again after their loss this week, just gone, and Leeds the same, isn't it? But I'm really intrigued to know what Warwick are bringing, but we just don't know whether that'll be a reflection of Warwick or a reflection of NTU, will it, in that first? Because Isaac, I know you've had a couple of insights into NTU, and I think there are concerns there, aren't they, in the program?
Yeah. I mean, I think I used to coach there, now QB, but he was basically saying that it could be a struggle this year for him. You'd hope it isn't, and you hope they can return to the form pre-Christmas last year. But you're going up against against the division champions from last year, and the Warwick coaches after that bit of success, they're going to want more. It's what you always want is more success, and they'll see NTU as someone that can really get a success against.
And any sort of comments on the Loughborough Gold game, considering we've talked about the rest before we get out of here?
It'd be good to see how Loughborough can shape up this year. We saw last year they beat Beckett, but everyone else did as well in the division. But also they beat Durham. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how Nottingham come out. We never hear a lot from Nottingham about the recruits they've got, especially the scholars. We hear a lot about the British talent, but not about the scholars they can get in from America. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see after this weekend what Nottingham look like.
Yeah, totally.
Just one editorial point, Andy. It's Northumbria Mustangs, not Northumberland. So me and the proofreaders have failed this week, and yeah, we'll deal with that before it goes out.
Whoops! Never mind. Can't always be perfect.
Harking back to the Northumberland Lightning, that isn't it, with those lovely uniforms
Vikings.
up there.
Yeah.
Is it Northumberland Vikings?
You'll get shot, no doubt. No idea.
No idea. I think you made that one up, Stuart.
Definitely made that one up.
I haven't.
Please comment if this is...
Their uniform was like yellow bolts. So like the LA Chargers played in a horrible yellow bolt kit this weekend. I don't know if anyone else saw that.
Yeah, I liked it.
I'm sure the Northumberland Lightning or somebody Lightning played in a kit like that. So I'll share it in our content group afterwards.
Awesome. Let's have a look at Tier 1 then, because Stuart's just out here on his own declaring Oxford Brookes' new uniform our favourite. I'm like, Stuart, come on.
Come on now. Somebody else give me a uniform that's as good as that one. Come on now.
To be fair, it's lovely.
Nottingham Gold.
Behave
yourself. Anyway, moving on swiftly. Stuart, there's loads to talk about here, but obviously we don't want to go through it all. Otherwise, we'll be here till September. So what would you like to talk about in terms of Tier 1 coming up on this week's slate?
I think I'm going to come back to what I mentioned last week, and Bournemouth will really want to get out of Tier 1 this year. I'm sure they will. But after we mentioned it on our pod last week, there was a couple of other rumblings about it, and it was a self-declared admin error by all accounts, from what we've heard. And yeah, they've been docked points for this season, so they'll have to win those points back, starting with a lovely, easy trip down to Bristol Barracuda, who are a staple at Tier 1. They're a strong team, another consistent team who don't really have a lot of change. And yeah, I think that is going to be a really interesting battle in the southwest. And also looking north of the border, Scotland, I can't remember whether this is a triple header, so all 3 games happening in one place. I'll have to sort of fact check that. I know a lot of the teams tend to double head at least to help with referee availability, which when you've got 22 fixtures in one weekend is really appreciated to try and get referees across a lot of games. I know that Tier 2 are struggling this year. So if you are near to a Tier 2 team, wow, there's a lot of T's there. Reach out if you're a qualified coach to help cover their games. But yeah, if you've got 3 games of football in one place in Scotland, that's going to be a fantastic draw. And the Napier Knights Stirling Klansman one really jumps out at me already. That's like a table-topping clash. I know they probably play each other twice, home and away. But if you can take the bragging rights in week 1 with a definitive win, I think that's going to set their stall out. I was going to say set their flag out, but Stirling tend to come out with the Klansman sword and stick that in the ground, don't they? So, yeah, whether they're allowed to do that legally nowadays, I don't know. But yeah, they'll want to come out and set their stall out. They're legally allowed to do that, and put a really good performance on the board. That's the one that will bring my eye to it next week. Yeah, sorry, Isaac. I'm saying loads of really random stuff and clichéic. I'll let you cover the new named team because I'm sure you're dying to talk about them.
I'm not saying it. I'm not saying it.
You've got it.
No, the Rams are at home against the Manchester Tyrants, and I think this year it really helps them not having Northumbria in their division. Like, it just shows that now they can prove that they're the number 1 team. We heard it a lot last year that they were, but in the playoffs, I think they lost to Stirling. So this year could be a big bounce back year for them, and see if they can go all the way and get themselves into the Prem, which would be nice for them. You've also got Edge Hill, who start their season back in Tier 1. That'd be nice to see if they can get a win against MMU, which I think could be a tricky task for them. I think whenever you come into a new tier, it becomes a trickier task. But Midlands and Yorkshire really appeals to me this weekend. You got Sheffield Hallam, who shocked Nottingham Green twice back-to-back weeks last year, coming against Derby, who are new to the tier as well, and they could see them as quite an easy way to start 1-0. And then you got Leicester, that last season looked solid, but then didn't look solid, and they picked up draws against Hull, who couldn't buy a win. So, and they come against Sheffield. So again, this Tier 1 this year looks really unpredictable from the off, really.
Trying to see if I can find out that info around the triple header, and it certainly BUCS play isn't saying that it's a triple header on the same pitch, but that might just be automatic, mightn't it?
I couldn't tell whether you'd just frozen or not. You just stayed really still, looking down.
I was just looking.
Might just be my Wi-Fi. It's fine.
No, definitely not. No, I couldn't confirm it, but I can confirm that Edinburgh Napier are definitely in Edinburgh. Just a case of whether the other 2 are joining them, isn't it? Couldn't picture that. Let us know in the comments if you know. I mean, isn't it going to be interesting to see how all these new faces start off? Because we know that Lancashire have recruited really well, haven't they? They've still got some very, very important key players from last year as well, and there's some mainstays in that tier, isn't there? That is undoubtedly going to keep going along what they've always been doing. Derby back in it. It's all great to see, isn't it? Anything else to add before we get out of Tier 1?
No.
Let's move on to Tier 2 then, because there's still plenty to go on there as well. And Isaac, I'll give you first dibs here then, because some interesting reshuffles of divisions, as we touched upon last year, is going to make some of these week one, although it's week two, fixtures quite difficult to predict.
Yeah, it's exactly that, and it's that Southwestern that looks so hard to predict. Really, you got Swansea, who on the Prem side, who had a really disappointing year last year coming up. You can see that UWE Bullets 2 could be the favourite in that division, but they've got a tough test against Gloucester. It's all the
Gloucestershire.
stuff I want. That Southern team, that one. They've got a tough test against them coming up, and then Worcester as well. They look like they could. They at the end of last season, if I remember rightly, picked up a couple of viable wins as well. So that Southwestern looked really, really hard to predict, especially when that Welsh team joined as well.
And I'm sure you had questions around York, didn't you? Because obviously they've changed their coaching staff as well, and that'll be really interesting to see where they come up.
Yeah.
And Sunderland recruiting heavily could end up being the class here. So yeah, I'm certainly looking at the Northeast to see how that shapes out in week one.
It definitely could be a tough test for York. Going up to Druid Park, on the edge of a runway. In what looks like what could be bad conditions on Sunday as well as we get into winter. But definitely, the way York with a new head coach, Sunderland with all the American scholars they've just recruited. So yeah, it definitely could look like that York have, got baptism of fire with the new head coach.
And Stu, what about you?
Sunderland, the one vote in the writers' poll top 10, I did see. Crazy from tier 2. I'm not sure who that was from, but we'll let them have their say. It's fine.
Wrong.
If you want an easier way to say names in the Southwest, Isaac, just go with Gloucester cheese and Worcester sauce, because that's what we used to do when we were at varsity, because we all know that the sauce goes on top of the cheese, so Worcester tend to finish above. There's a bit of harking back to university days. It might not be the case when you're on the field.
These places even are.
Do you know? Oh, come on, we need to educate you on geography, don't we? Really?
Is Gloucester near Cheltenham? I think it is.
Yes, yes.
There.
It's literally two stops apart on the M5 as you go south.
That's your Bradford City knowledge shining through right there.
That's because I've got to go there in 2 weeks.
Nice. So you'll probably come past me in Worcester, then you'll go past Gloucester, and then you'll come off at Cheltenham.
There we go.
Be fine. You'll be loving life. Anyway, back to the football. Back to the football. we'll bring it back, shall we? The Southern Division without Oxford Brookes, I think, is going to be an interesting one because they just kind of ran away with that last year. Sussex finished 4-1 in the end, and they open up with the game against Chichester, who were 1-4. So, depending on turnover of both programs, it'll be interesting to see whether either of those two can switch their fortunes this season. Royal Holloway Reading Knights, again, Reading came down from tier 1, so it'll be interesting to see how they've got themselves back into football shape. I'm pretty sure that one of my ex-players from Worcester is still head coach there, Brian. So it'd be interesting to see what he's done with their team in the off season and how they kick off their 25-26 season, and then the madness that was the Southeastern last year. It'll be interesting to see whether we can get a completed game this season or even just get games in general. Imperial didn't have the best season last year, and Queen Mary did, quite frankly. It's again a similar battle to that, Sussex versus Chichester. How are these teams going to have flipped themselves over the summer to either continue the strong run or come off the bottom of the table or from towards the bottom of the table to put themselves in contention this season?
Yeah, 100%. Anything else to get through tier 2 before we move on?
No,
awesome. Yeah, plenty of talking points that'll come up next week, I'm sure, when we're proven completely wrong or right in some situations. And we'll be able to reshuffle the pack because we'll have a couple of data points in Prem for sure. And there's a couple of tasty matchups that'll give us an idea where the pack's starting to shuffle. What do we need to get to before we get out of here, gents?
Last person standing competition.
Go ahead.
I keep wanting to call it last man standing, and I've been politically correct and gone with person. So we put a bit of a teaser out. Thank you, Isaac. I appreciate that. We put a bit of a teaser out yesterday. We might not have given everything away in said teaser. So come Friday, when we release the voting ballot, we'll put a link on the story on Instagram that will go through to Facebook as well. Log in. You've got 44 teams to choose from. Pick one, and that team you then can't choose again for the rest of the season. So you have to choose a unique team every single week. So do with that what you will. Some people have said go with the strongest one week one because you don't know what you're going to get, or go with we'll leave it up to you. But yeah, you can't pick UWE bullets every single week, because in week 2 I'll go through my spreadsheet and just go delete, unfortunately. I haven't worked out how we're going to let you know whether you're through or whether you're not yet. It depends on the amount of entrants we get. And then at the end of it, whoever is the last person standing, we will give a gift card for EP Sports. It's going to be worth 50 quid. We'll validate your name against some sort of photographic ID just to make sure that you're not a spam bot from Pakistan that could potentially give us some free merch. And we will then liaise with our sponsors. Come on, Isaac, it was funny. We'll liaise with our sponsors over at EP Sports about how we get that gift card over to you. And make sure that happens so that you can probably buy some more cleats or some gloves, because that's probably what you're going to get with your 50 quid.
Yeah, 100%. And completely free entry. It's just this is a way in which we can engage with you. You might even find yourself on the pod. Let's put that out there. We might have something else to talk about on top of this, which is always really helpful as well. So get involved, take the mick out of your mates, and we can all point and laugh together, can't we? What else do we need to talk about? We've got the Champion Series coming up. Champion Series, haven't we? So I with Kiwi have interviewed Bristol and Solent Thrashers Women's. Me and Isaac have just been on the phone with London Blitz. I'm going to reach out to Rushmore and Glasgow Hornets as well, and we'll start releasing them in the next week or so as well. So please look out for that. Isaac's previews up on the website. Make sure you check them out as well. He's enjoying doing all of that work and providing you with his thoughts. And there's plenty more to come, I'm sure. Anything else?
Last season we did cover random results, didn't we? That were dotted in and around BUCS. So why not while we're on here for 40 minutes? We had 3 fixtures last weekend that were not BUCS related. The GB women's team took part in the IFAF Women's European Championship second fixture. Unfortunately, they came away with just a narrow loss, as they did when they played on home soil against Finland. They travelled to Spain and lost 26-22. They had a really good first half by all accounts. There was just a little bit of momentum lost in the second. Adjustments happened. Spain got back on top and eventually took the win. So GB fall to 0-2 in the championship. So far, it's kind of spread out, isn't it, over sort of 18 months or so. It's weird, like a slightly weird cycle, weird tournament. But that they fall to that. Isaac, cover your ears for the next 2 minutes. I know that this result won't please you because you weren't there either. Team Scotland travelled down to Team North in Leeds and came away with a 27-7 victory. So they go 2-0 in the Under-19s Regional League. Leaves Team North and SGS 0-1. And then we also had... They do, yes. Is there 2 games this weekend, or is that next weekend?
It's this weekend coming. It's SGS versus Team North, and I believe it's Midlands versus Southern Kings, or is that next weekend? I can't remember.
It's on our website.
2 are playing against each other.
25th. So it's Team Midlands host Team South, and SGS Pride host Team North.
Brilliant. Isn't it amazing?
No, that is right, because that is up to date, because we got sent that. That's fine. That is correct. I know that changed
this weekend. Yeah,
that's it. Cool. And then the last fixture was a standalone inter-services match. So the British Army hosted the Royal Navy in Oxford, and the Army came away a 27-8 victor. That's about as much as I know about that fixture, I'm afraid. I didn't manage to get to that one this year. I know I was there in Oxford last year. By all accounts, it was a fantastic game day, though. They said that they had about 300 people there. They had a performance from a band, I believe it was. And I know that Abe Day, who's still involved with the services games, he invited BAFRA down to run a recruitment table or stand as well, which is fantastic because, as we all know, referees, we definitely need more of them. So yeah, he invited us down to have a recruitment table there, which was great. And it means that we've nearly filled our, shameless plug, we've nearly filled our November training program as well. I think we've still got 2 or 3 spaces left. So yeah, shameless plug, recruitment at bafra.info if you're interested, or just Google join BAFRA, and we can get you on board, and you'll be on the field before the new year.
Another bow to your quiver is trying to get that recruitment up for BAFRA, isn't it? So I know that the inter-services game days are always well done, aren't they? They even, I'm sure Mike Wallner does a lot of the commentary, doesn't he, at those sorts of game day events as well. Who's obviously a friend of ours as well, and yeah, great to see that they're still going with it all, isn't it? Really, but no, actually, what a weekend of football we've got ahead in the middle of October, just before half term for some of us, and BUCS is definitely backing up and running for sure, isn't it? And good luck to all the referees having to cover all these fixtures. Yeah. Oh well, best of luck to everybody. I think that's it then, isn't it? Let's get out of here, because we've rambled on long enough about week 2. I'm looking forward to seeing how that all plays out. We'll be back again next week for sure to bring our thoughts on the week 2 action and how that shapes things up, certainly from a writers' poll point of view and from a standings point of view. But thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Stuart and Isaac, as always, and thanks to those who've joined us live for the first time. Had a couple of comments saying hi, thanks for joining us, and we will catch you again next week. Take care.